everyone. We are Dr. Karen Dick
and Dr. Melissa Thiessen,
the psychologists behind the new podcast, Survival 101, a fresh take on self-care for female mental health clinicians, which is part of the Psychcraft network of podcasts.
We are so proud to be part of this network, along with Lisa Mustard of The Therapy Show.
If you haven't discovered Survival 101 yet, you can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts.
As mental health clinicians, we all know that self-care is important. We talk with our clients about it all the time, and yet, ironically, we often struggle with it ourselves and often do so in silence. That's why we created Survival 101, to help us all break the silence and lessen the struggle.
We hope that through our down-to-earth discussions with other like-minded female mental health clinicians, you will find the courage to elevate your own self-care and move from simply surviving to truly thriving in this work.
Be sure to check us out at intentionaltherapist.ca for a free introduction to our 4Cs self-care model and links to more resources designed to help you create the kind of life from which you don't need to escape.
Welcome to the Therapy Show podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard. In each episode, I interview a seasoned and knowledgeable talk therapist from the counseling world to glean valuable insights, techniques, and tools that you can apply to your practice and your life. And if you're considering a career in the counseling field or just want to hear about what it's like to be a talk therapist, then this is the podcast for you. Francesca Andrade lives in California and is currently studying to be a marriage and family therapist. She also has many years of experience in working as an applied behavior analysis technician, as well as being the mom to a son with autism. And if you aren't familiar with ABA therapy, it's a type of therapy that teaches skills and expected behavior by using reinforcement. Some experts claim that it's the gold standard for autism treatment. Advocates of ABA therapy cite its success in helping autistic people learn behaviors and skills. Those who are against it say that ABA is hard on autistic kids and forces them to conform to other people's ideas of normal behavior. And in this episode, Francesca shares her story of discovering that her son is autistic, the therapies they've utilized, plus how she practices self-care with all that she has going on. She's a student, behavioral health technician in the school system, and mom to her wonderful son, Aiden. And one more thing, before we dive into this episode, you may hear our dogs barking in the background, and I apologize in advance if it's distracting. But I think my awesome editor, Chelsea, did a really great job of minimizing their barks in the background. So thanks a bunch, Chelsea. Well, hey, friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm excited this week to have Francesca Andrade on the podcast. Welcome to the show, Francesca.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really fun to connect with you. We connected, I think, on Instagram initially, right? When I put the call out to I wanted to interview folks on different mental health topics. I just put it out there and you responded, and I had no idea that you were even a listener or a follower. So it's so great to meet you.
It's so great to connect with you. I am such a fan. I've been listening to your podcast, and especially I'm in the field. And so it's great to find other podcasts out there to help me navigate, because psychology is such a broad and vague field that, sometimes you don't know where to go or I guess find your place within psychology and what you want to do in the long term. So it was great finding your podcast to give me an idea, how can I navigate this?
Sure. Well, yeah, I'm so glad that it's helping you. And you were sharing before we hit record kind of where you are in the process of becoming a counselor. So can you share with the listeners, what's going on for you right now in your schooling and in your training and what you want to do in the future?
Yeah, sure. So right now I'm still getting my undergrad in psychology, specializing in counseling. And I know I was talking to you about trying to figure out my next steps. Next step is grad school. And then but before going into grad school, you have to figure out what you want to do. And they kind of just give you, okay, do you want to do clinical psychology, MFT, school psychology? And I think that was it. I think another option is your BCBA. So I was kind of like, I have no idea, because I didn't want to go and stop and then try to find something else. I didn't want to waste time. So I kind of just dove into jobs and really started networking and just to see, can I imagine myself here? So I was in applied behavior analysis, so ABA, and I talked to some of my supervisors who had their BCBA, and I realized that wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. And then I was a behavior technician, so I worked in the schools in special ed. So I was able to talk to school counselors and with the district and in the high school. And then I realized that wasn't for me. And then I talked to clinical psychologists. So I applied to work in a mental institution. And then I realized that was not for me. So I ended up choosing MFT. And I also told you this, so it kind of came full circle with my son, because when I was in high school, that's what I wanted to do. And I was like, I really want to do this. But, being a kid, I got sidetracked. And it wasn't until my son, he got his diagnosis with autism, where I got my way back into psychology. And now I'm just moving forward. So I'm going to be starting grad school for MFT. I want to say probably in 2024. That's when I'll start grad school classes. But I start taking some classes next year within my program.
Gotcha. So you're undergrad right now. You're like in your junior year, I guess, of college. Right?
Yeah, my junior year.
Okay. Well, I know I shared with you earlier that I am so excited for you to become an MFT, because we need, this field is just, I'm telling you, well, first of all, like mental health is just, it's just job security. We are like, it's just amazing what the need is right now. And I think that's only going to pick up in the future. And yeah, marriages and families, and it's just the whole, gosh, it's pretty heavy at times, but at the same time, it's also really an exciting field to be in. You make such a difference in people's lives, and you can help so many. So like I told you, we need amazing MFTs out there. And so I'm here to support you and just like help and just be like, come on, you can do it. And I know in California, it's a little bit different than in other states. So, because I'm in South Carolina, and I know it's a little bit different, but I'm pretty sure that your grad school training will be very similar to mine. And do you know where are you going to stay with the program that you're in, MFT?
Well, actually, my school is actually in Minnesota.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I go to Capella. So yeah. So I know some, because it's out of state, so some things are going to be a little bit different, but my school's in Minnesota and I live in California.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. And those online programs are really,
I love the online programs. It's so great when you work. I work, I'm a mom, and I'm a student. So it just kind of all works out together. So yeah, I love online school.
Yeah. Awesome. So tell us about your son. And I know you mentioned he was diagnosed with autism. Can you take us back to, maybe how that all played out? How did you realize it?
So my son was diagnosed at 2 with autism. And at the time I was a really young mom. So I was probably about 22 when we got his diagnosis. And at the time I was taking a break from school, probably switching my major and working. And I got his diagnosis and I was like, oh my gosh, what is autism? What is that? What did I do to my baby? And I spiraled. I took a lot of the blame, and I thought it was something that I did to my son. Like, did I eat something wrong? Did I not exercise enough? So he got his diagnosis at 2, and then right away, like, people were telling me, oh, you need to get the doctors, they were telling me, oh, you need to get services. He can have occupational therapy. He can have speech therapy. And then there's something called ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis. So I signed up for whatever I could. within my state, my county. And services happened really fast. And I had to quit my job because the doctors recommended that he were to have, it was an hour of occupational therapy, an hour of speech therapy. And this is at a clinic. So I would have to drive him to this clinic. And then he needed 27 hours a week in ABA. And that was in home. So I had to quit my job. I quit school because as a mom, you're going to do everything for your kids. So we just dove into therapy, and the therapies helped out great. ABA, they did a lot of play-based therapy, which was awesome. And he was able to, I guess they call it phasing out, but they also called it graduation. So we told him he graduated therapy. So he probably graduated around 6 or 7. And, he still has triggers and deficits, but when it comes to behavior, he knows how to self-regulate. So he just turned 11 now. I just had to drop him off at school. So he knows how to self-regulate now. And when it comes to his motor skills and fine motor skills, he's a little bit better. He has some challenges like opening up stuff, or like opening up bags, or he might need assistance. But with his speech therapy, he can say, "Hey mom, can you open this bag for me?" So, which is great, because when we first started out, he was practically nonverbal. And he had a lot of sensory deficits where it would cause behaviors, like in the beginning. And so now he has his little triggers, but I know what's so great about the company is that they were able to give me almost like parent training on how to help him with his triggers and like things to say. And a lot of it was psychology that we learned. So yeah, it was a great journey. And that's what got me on my road to getting back into school and like, this is what I want to learn. And I ended up getting a job with the company, and I was with them for about 5 years, and I was going into people's homes and doing ABA therapy with them, and just, sharing my story with other parents. And, I met some amazing parents where I was able to be like, I understand, I get it. And, it's not you, you did not do anything wrong. And, a lot of parents, were a little bit confused because what the doctors tell us is different from what we learn. So the doctors, when they give you your diagnosis, they're not specialists in the field of, special needs. And they might know like a baseline of autism, but that's just it. They're not specialists. So a lot of parents were like, is my child going to be cured? And I was like, no, I know where you heard that. I heard that too. But no, this is something that, your child's going to live with, but, we can manage it. And then he can manage it. And we're going to do this together. So that was, I had an amazing experience, working with other kiddos too, working with my kid, working with other kiddos, and doing play-based therapy in ABA.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know much about ABA therapy. I know that, recently there's been some controversy, I think, over the intervention and the treatment. And I don't know much about that, but do you know much about that too? Yeah. I mean, do you know much about that?
Yeah, I heard of that too. And I guess like there was like online groups, and I'm a part of like mom groups and stuff, and they were saying that like ABA doesn't help with behaviors, that it's more of like, I guess they compared it to bribery.
I gotcha. Yeah,
bribery. But I have to say, like, it depends on how it's I guess used and how it's displayed from the therapist and through the parents. I mean, I know as like a psychologist, there, are not some good counselors out there that, that maybe their practices not how, we normally learn it. But I know through my experience with my son, and I was able to see the behaviors change and see the data, that I was able to be like, okay, this works. And so that's something that I really liked, is that ABA is data driven. So if you see where your kiddo is at and where he first started, like his baseline, and then see the end, you can see data shift, or you can see data not shift. And that means something's not right.
Right.
Something where we need to tweak something. So I understand where the controversy is, because I have seen and I have trained other therapists where I'm like, okay, you need to like tweak it like this, because yes, then it sounds like, okay, Johnny,
Right.
if you do this, I'll give you this cookie. And I'm like, well, that's bribery. We don't do that.
Right.
We have to use like first then statements. First, we put on our shoes, then we can go play for 5 minutes. We change behavior that way. There's different techniques and methods. I love play-based therapy. I just love it. I feel like it's more realistic, and I feel like you can build rapport with the child and the child can trust you. So it's a really good dynamic between the child and therapist, and even parents too. So like I always encourage parents to play, and then you can bring in like certain programs or techniques that you want to work on with your kid.
Need continuing education contact hours? If so, then be sure to check out my popular pod courses. Currently, there are 12 to choose from, and there are a variety of topics. You can learn more about eating disorders, addiction treatment, Lyme disease and mental health, how to be an adoption resource, plus much more. And I'm giving you your first one for free. However, this free offer will be going away in 2023, so head to my site and sign up for a free pod course before it's too late. Once you sign up, I'll email you a code that you can enter at checkout to get your first pod course at no charge. You can listen anytime, anywhere, and when you're ready, purchase the course, take the self-study quiz, pass it, and then download your certificate of completion. It's simple, yet if you have any questions, please get in touch. And by the way, Mustard Consulting LLC is a NBCC approved provider. Very cool. I'm so glad you cleared that up, because it's like you said, well, first of all, it's a technique and an intervention. And if you're not using it correctly, then yikes, like that's else. Right. And then also at the same time, you're going to have experienced clinicians or, ABA providers, and then not so experienced. So you have to be very, you have to vet, I guess, the practitioners that you're working with, and you want to check all the recommendations, and you want to make sure that, this is a qualified center. Ask your friends or ask other, parents out there who have been there. You want to make sure that you're getting what it is that you need. Yeah. I mean, there's therapists out there that I wouldn't recommend at all.
Yeah, exactly. I remember one mom, she was like, I don't understand. You're telling me to ignore the bad thing he does, so I'm just going to ignore everything. And I'm like, no, you're not going to ignore everything. You're just going to not give attention to bad behavior, but you're going to give attention to the good behavior. So instead of being like, don't do that, you're going to be like, oh, wow, you're sitting so nicely. You're sitting so quiet. You have a quiet, calm body. You're using your quiet voice. So the kid knows, okay, if I want attention, I have to do this good thing and not pull my hair or scream or whatever the negative behavior is.
Sure. I gotcha. Okay. I think it's really interesting. And like I said, I don't know much about it. So we'll put some links in the show notes for folks to learn more about ABA and to find if it's a therapy that might be helpful. Now, is ABA only used for children who've been diagnosed with autism, or can you use it with other issues?
It's normally used with kiddos with autism, but also a lot of other like behavior deficits. Like I've worked with kiddos with ADHD, ADD. So it just depends on if there's like like extreme behaviors.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But normally it's what you see a lot with autism.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to go back and talk to you a little bit about your experience when you learned that your son had autism. I know you mentioned that you felt like maybe you did something, or, you didn't do something. So it sounds like you experienced some guilt when you learned of the diagnosis. Do you remember what you did to kind of help yourself with that, or what support you had?
Yeah. So I know I did have family that was experienced in like the special needs sector. So I was able to lean on them a little bit. And I also knew some other moms who had sons just like mine who were diagnosed as well. And then other than that, I know like the guilt took a lot on me in the beginning. I don't think I talked to that many people about it. And it was just kind of like, I'm just gonna suffer in silence. And until I got over that, where I was like, you know what, I need to help my kid. And so I was just researching a lot. And, I was really surprised to find out that, the doctors did all they could with getting the referrals in, getting him diagnosed, like, okay, this is where you're going to go. We also had a autism specialist within the hospital too. So she was able to navigate me on like, okay, this is the facility you want to go to. This is who you're going to call. So she kind of got me started. And it was within those facilities, I started asking a lot of questions. Like, okay, how do I navigate potty training? That was like a big thing because my son can barely hold things. How is he supposed to like undress himself to like go to the bathroom or like folding the toilet paper, just things like that, or like feeding.
Right.
That was another long trial, was him learning how to use a fork and a spoon, shoe tying. So I was really, asking a lot of questions like, okay, these things that we normally take for granted, I know I did, because I, did all these things at an early age. Like, how do I teach that to him when I'm not sure what he can do and what can't he do, or if he understands like this is how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know recently the biggest one we had was last year. My father passed of COVID, and my father and my son were like best friends. And I had to explain to my son that grandpa passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And he really didn't understand the process of a funeral. And like, we had him buried. So like explaining that, now we are spiritual. So my son understood, where you go after you die, but he didn't understand like, okay, like COVID, what is COVID? And what is that? Like germs? Like it opened up a whole plethora of like just questions and like trying to get him to understand what it is. And and I also learned that there was really no support when it came to grief and loss for someone with special needs and how to navigate that. And I ended up, I went through my phone book of my old supervisors, coworkers, anyone I could call, be like, hey, this is not a behavior problem, but it could be a behavior problem. So how do I navigate this? And so, it was amazing for me in this whole journey to figure out like the support that's there and the support that we still need. So it was really interesting. And I feel like I'm always continuously learning, always learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So much love for your son. It's evident, and so much wanting for him to have understanding and to thrive. It's beautiful. I mean, really beautiful. And I'm really sorry for the loss of your father.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's that's hard for sure. Thank you for sharing that, by the
Oh,
way.
no worries. No worries. It's a journey, but as a mom, you do whatever it takes and you try to figure it out. And this is all lessons for me to take on to pass to other parents or, other kiddos and, try to help them or try to figure out like a way to get support.
Yeah. Well, you definitely have. I wish you guys could see her. Francesca has a beautiful smile and an energy and a glow about her. And I'm just over here like, how do you do it? Because like
lots of coffee.
Yeah, right. I know. I was just thinking that like lots of caffeine for me too. But yeah, so you mentioned being spiritual. How does your faith play into your attitude or your worldview, I guess, or your lens of how you see things?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, in the beginning it was hard because I felt like, like why? Why me? I don't know how to navigate this. Did I do something wrong? And also in the middle of that, I was also, fighting for custody over my son as well. So it was definitely a struggle, but I always have the belief that everything happens for a reason and that, God gives you what you can handle. And I have to believe that, my experiences is what can make me a good therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And, I feel like at least I hoped I helped a lot of parents, but I feel like I've given some guidance to a lot of parents out there through my experiences. And I definitely feel like I owe it to like pass on the knowledge. And because it's definitely hard when it comes to your child, like as a parent, like you just want the best for them.
Mm-hmm.
And like I wish like I had someone to be like, you know what, it's not your fault, you didn't do anything wrong, and these things happen, but here's where you can go from here and everything's going to be okay. So I wish I had that support where I feel like, someone understood, because the therapist, my son had amazing therapists. Well, he had amazing ones, and he had like ones kind of learning the field.
Sure.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But none of them had children with autism. They knew of someone like, a cousin, a neighbor, but I really wanted, I'm like, is there anyone that just gets it, that just realizes how hard it is, like to have all these therapists come into your home and be like, I have to do laundry, please ignore the mess, he just had a temper tantrum because the movie ended. So I really wanted someone to just connect with and to understand, and I just wanted to see, like, is there hope? So for me, I get my joy going into other people's homes and working with parents, and just even the whole, I get it. Like, I've met some parents where they're just like, I just don't know. I don't know. And they cry.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I get it. Like, I totally get it. And they actually like feel it. And they're like, you do. And it's like, it's also therapeutic for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
I remember so many sessions where I had to just cry in my closet because, my son was having these like traumatic behaviors to where I couldn't go to the grocery store because the environment was just triggering him. And, at the time I also had stepdaughters, and you're a mom, you have to go to the grocery store, you have to do all these things on your list, and I couldn't get a sitter. So I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to make dinner tonight because I can't take him in the grocery store. And, he's flailing his arms, and we're a tall family. So my son's really big, so he barely fits in the basket. And now they make special needs shopping carts, but he's like flailing, and then people are staring. And I felt criticized as a mom that I couldn't control my kid. but it was because of the lights, the sounds, everything was so triggering for him. And so having this therapy was able to desensitize and give me the right tools to where I could like prime him, like, this is a market, you know, we're going to go to the market on Mondays and we're going to go for 5 minutes, and then we're going to go, then I would like increase the time. Okay, we're going to go for an hour, to where now he's totally fine with the market. You know, he's like, okay, let's go to the market.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, if it's the sound is too much, you have your headphones. So, okay. And now he doesn't need his headphones anymore because he wants to look cool now in the store.
Yeah. How old is he now? You said he's 11?
He's 11.
Yeah. I have an 11-year-old daughter. I know it's that time when they start to care and look cool and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't kiss him now.
Right. Is
Like,
he
no.
is he go to public school?
Yes, he goes to public school, and he's in like a special education class.
Mm-hmm.
So he's also, during parts of the day, he's transitioned to a general ed class. So he does general ed PE. He's on graduation track, so to get his like high school diploma. But the overall goal is, you know, if he can, to, you know, get transitioned into general ed classes.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it sounds like he's made amazing progress.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Truly, congratulations. I mean,
And thank you.
Yeah.
And he is a happy little boy. Like he understands what autism is.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows that, you know, he has autism, and, you know, that he's not different. He just feels things in a different way, in a unique way. And he's just happy. Like, to him, it's just like, okay, like, he's really smart and intelligent. And it's just, now it's our life.
Yeah.
You know, I when people ask me, I'm like, autism is my life. It's my work. It's what I come home to. It's nothing different.
Yeah.
You know, we might do things a little differently, like Thanksgiving. It's not a traditional Thanksgiving. My son comes with a lunch pail with his own food because he has his own like food sensitivities. Or, you know, theme parks look a little different because my son wears these giant headphones, and he has like some theme parks have disability like passes, so he can like navigate through the lines a little bit better. But yeah, and let's see. Yeah, and that's about it. I know a lot of people make a lot of accommodations for him, which I'm very thankful for. And yeah, he's amazing.
Does he have friends that what's that like?
He has friends at school. The social part is always it's a journey.
Mm-hmm.
So my son is still navigating on, you know, his social skills.
Mm-hmm.
Like coming up to people and saying, hi, how are you? He feels comfortable doing it with us at home. Like, he'll be like, hi, how was your day? But when it comes to strangers, especially his peers, like kids on the playground, it's almost as if you can see he's in his head trying to think of, how do I appropriately navigate this situation? Like, what do I say right now? Mm-hmm. And he gets in his head. And then usually when he does that, he starts, it's called scripting, where he's repetitively saying things that he likes. So right now he's scripting a lot of like Disney movies. So he'll start saying the lines of the Disney movies. And I know from the outside looking in, the kids are probably like, what is he saying? Like, what? Like, what's that? But, you know, it's his comfort. Yeah. It's almost like his like security blanket, where whenever he gets really uncomfortable, he starts scripting. So with me, it's a lot of like when I'm with him, you know, out in the public or something, I kind of try to help him with his social skills. Like if someone says, oh, hi, how are you? And he kind of just like freezes and I'll tell him like, oh, say hi back. And he's all, oh, hi. And maybe they'll start up a conversation, especially if it's another little kid. In school, the teachers and the aides, they try to facilitate the conversations as well to get him used to it, because he's not always going to have us there, especially as an adult. He's not always going to have mom there to help him in those social environments. But I do know he gets a little anxious about it, especially now he's like transitioning to the tween like stage where he's kind of thinking about it more like, what do I say? How do I look? I don't know. What are they thinking about me? So I really try to, if I can, I'll kind of like hold back a little, like, it's gonna say something. Sometimes he surprises me. Sometimes he can really connect with certain kiddos, like especially if they like what he likes. Then I can just see him thrive. Like, oh, you like Minions too? I like Minions. Who's your favorite? And I'm like, whoa, okay, like go, go off there. But other times I have to jump in.
So let's talk a little bit about self-care, because you're a mom, you work, like you said, you kind of autism is your world and you're in school. So what do you do to kind of like decompress and de-stress and take care of yourself?
So decompress, oh my gosh. Well, I definitely like reading. I love getting into books and just kind of losing myself in reading. Working out, I know like that's kind of like a basic thing to say, but getting into groups like Pilates, and I'm just surrounded by other women and other groups, taking hikes, being with family. I try to do a lot of stuff with my son to get him out. And like we have like our little thing where like we love to go to the movies and we go through our like little routines. But when it comes to myself, just reading, trying to get fitness going, I have a very like limited window of like alone time because, you know, school and homework takes up a lot of my time, and also, you know, my son and, you know, parent teacher conferences, IEPs, and all the stuff he needs. And now my dog, I just got a dog we initially got our dog to be my son's service dog, but my son is having a hard time, like really, it's a slow process, really liking the dog. So the dog is kind of almost my emotional support animal. Like he's developed a relationship with me. So if I have like, the dog knows if I have anxiety, and it's crazy because he puts like, there are certain like sensory pressures that service animals do for people, you know, that are struggling. And so we wanted to teach him like, okay, if my son has like any type of issue, the dog will put his weight, almost like a weighted blanket, onto my son. The dog has not done that. He does it to me. Like when I'm upset, he'll do it to me. So I'm like, wow. So I guess I have an emotional support animal.
It works. He works. He just works
Yeah.
on the wrong person in the household.
Yeah.
I getcha.
I'm like, okay.
Is he a specially trained dog for that?
He's in training right
okay.
now. Yeah.
Okay. And so you're in school, you're a full-time mom. Are you working right now? I forgot what you shared.
Yes.
You are. Okay. And so what do you do right now?
So I am a behavior technician. So I work in the school system, and I work with kiddos that, you know, are on the spectrum as well, who have IEPs. And I'm almost like the kiddo's aide.
Sure. Yeah.
So not the teacher's aide, but the kid's aide. So, and whatever the behavior issue is, I help them target that.
Gotcha. So you're working while your son's in school. Are you at the same school as him?
No,
Okay.
I'm not. So my son's in school, and then I go to a different school. So my son's in elementary and I work at a high school. So I work with the teenagers. Yeah. So I've worked with kiddos like, let's say 2 to like 17 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked with a lot of different kiddos. I do have to say the teenagers are the hardest. They're fun, but they're the hardest to, I guess, like build rapport with, build trust with. With kiddos, doing like play-based like sessions, it's so much easier because you have that imaginary play. It's not like what you see on TV where the therapist brings out like a box of like dolls and be like, let's play house. It's really, you have to like learn what the kids like. So you really have to like see, okay, what do they like and how can I put a program into this and take data on that. So it's like the first couple of days, it's a lot of pairing, like, oh, like what do you like to play with? What's your favorite toy? And then I start learning, and then like I'm taking my notes. I'm like, okay, so-and-so likes Spider-Man, so-and-so likes playing like hair salon. And then I start using that. And I'm like, okay, we have to target, it could be like a behavior skill. And so while we're playing, I'll ask like different questions and try to target that program. With teenagers, it's a little hard because they don't play. The play looks different. So it's more of, that teenager play where they want to play on Roblox, or they want to, listen to music. And so I really have to like shift from like, it's almost like with the little kids, I'm a big kid. And then with the teenagers, I'm like, okay, how do teenagers think again? So yeah, you have to really navigate like, okay. And then they're kind of in that phase where it's like, you're a grown up, I don't want to talk to you. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I really have to like, it's hard connecting with teenagers when you're an adult. And I'm pretty sure it's the same with parents when they have a teenager too. But once you find that a common ground, and you can build trust on that, and then they can trust you. I know some of the kiddos I've seen, my participants who were teenagers, I got to, get to know them and build rapport with them. And it was sad to see them go. They graduated, they didn't need me anymore. And so like, it was almost like, they thought of me as a friend. And, I had to like, I had to be like, farewell,
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
You don't need me anymore. Felt like Mary Poppins.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, you're doing such incredible work, and man, it's just so great to connect with you and to thank you for sharing about your story, where you're going, what your hopes are, and how you're helping people. Is there anything else that you would want to share with our listeners today about autism or ABA or anything that you want to offer?
Just if there are any parents there that, are on like the road of, trying to figure out services, I would say like look in your county, your state, like what they have to offer. Not necessarily, yes, go through doctors and see what support they have, but also see what other resources, free resources that, they have. I know I'm in California, so it might not be the same where to find it, but also Facebook as well. There's a lot of like support groups for parents, and trying to find different articles. And it's unfortunately for us, it's a little hard. You have to like research it, but there is stuff out there.
Right.
It's just trying to find it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Francesca. It's been just fabulous and wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Like I said, I'm a fan girl, so I listen to your episodes.
Oh, well, thanks. So I'm definitely a fan of yours now. So this has been great. Hey guys, before we end this episode, if you are liking my content, if you're liking my podcast, be sure to go over and leave me a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. And if you are up for it, I'd love it if you left me a review as well. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard. I know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful you've chosen to listen to mine.
Be sure to visit lisamustard.com to access the show notes and discover more fantastic content.
And I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the show. Thank you.